friends! Today we're here to have a cozy chat about whether Delita Hyrule from Final Fantasy Tactics was actually into any of his castmates from the game. There were a few other characters that seemed to be possible romantic interests for Delita, but even by the end of the game I feel like we're still left wondering whether he actually had feelings for anyone or if he really just loved power. So I hope you'll grab a drink or a snack and get cozy and pretend like you're talking to an old friend while I ramble about Delita. The first possibility I want to discuss is Balmathala or Valmafra. In the original she was called Balmathala, in the new War of the Lions version she was called Valmafra. For the sake of this video, I'm probably going to call her Balmathala because that was the name I first knew her by, and that's probably what my brain is going to default to. So, let's think about whether or not Delita may have actually had any romantic feelings for this character. He ended up having her assigned to him in the latter half of the game when he was basically infiltrating the ranks of Duke Goltana, but he was secretly working for the church. The church basically sent Balmathala to stay with him and assist him, and well, that's what they told Delita, that she would be his assistant and help him achieve his goals. But really, we find out toward the end of the game that, oh yeah, spoilers, if you have not played the whole game, you probably shouldn't be listening to any of the videos I make, because the whole game is up for grabs for what I talk about. So, you know, click off, that's a problem for you. If not, let's get back into it. So, we find out toward the end of the game that Balmathala was actually assigned to spy on Delita and basically execute him if he ever tried to betray the church. So, you know, we see that happen toward the end of the game. And, well, let's talk about that. When that does happen, we see that Balmathala isn't able to do it. She can't bring herself to stab Delita, even though she has a knife in her hand and knows that that's her assignment. And Delita ends up giving her some form of taunting, basically, like, oh, you can't do it, can you? Like, you care about me. And it's, well, I guess kind of classic Delita there by the end, but all we see as the viewer is after Balmathala can't bring herself to stab him, he dives at her and we hear a scream that I guess we have to assume is hers. So he doesn't kill her because we see her later on in the game, but as far as we know, that's the last real interaction that Delita and Balmathala ever have. So, based on that, even though, you know, these two have been shipped in fanfiction in the past, and, like, they spend a lot of time around each other and are around the same age, so, you know, I guess it stands to reason that they could be potential love interests. I mean, from my point of view, I feel like Delita probably never was into Balmathala, because he just doesn't strike me as someone that ever had feelings, especially by the statement he makes at the end, like, you know, you can't do it, can you? Like, it seems to imply that whatever feelings she's feeling, he does not share them. So, I guess, you know, it's possible maybe maybe they could have been more than friends during all the time they had to spend working closely together, but I doubt it based on what we're able to see. They seem to have almost like a jokey brother-sister friendship dynamic with each other when we see them earlier in the game. Like, when Delita introduces her to Ramza, they kind of have that attitude of like, oh god, you again. Like, you know, the way you might act with, like, a kid's sister who you find annoying. Like, they don't seem to hate each other, but it almost seems like when they see each other, it's like, eye roll, oh god, you again. So, I don't know, I mean, I guess some people have that dynamic with their romantic partner. I feel like that's not super common unless they're really obviously joking, which, I don't know, I didn't get the vibe that these two were really obviously joking when they acted that way. But yeah, to me that reads as no romantic feelings here. These two are just co-workers, basically. Plus, I mean, there's the fact that Delita was probably always at least somewhat certain that Balmathala had been sent to spy on him, so I feel like always wondering if someone is spying on you is probably not a great start for a relationship. So, yeah, I guess my take on it is, I think Delita was probably not into Balmathala. They were probably just friends. If anything more than friendship happened, it probably didn't mean very much to Delita, at least from my point of view. Balmathala, on the other hand, may have caught some feelings based on how she was unable to carry out her job at the end, because she at least really admired Delita. By that point, she thought he was a person, you know, worth saving and worth helping out. So I guess this could be one-sided. Maybe Balmathala had romantic feelings for Delita, and maybe Delita didn't share them. Or I guess there's also the possibility that he could have acted like he shared those feelings, but really didn't, and she was kind of crushed toward the end to find out that he did not. I don't know, but I guess there's a lot of possibilities here. It was left so open that we don't really know how it really was between these two. Like, I know some people ship them together. I guess it depends on your taste. Let me know what you think on this one. Next up, let's talk about what is probably one of the most popular ships in the game, which is Ramza plus Delita. So, these two, let's see, where to start. They begin in the game as, I mean, they come across as best friends. Like, Delita is in a way, Delita is Ramza's servant. I think the two of them don't like to verbalize it that way. They don't like to admit outright that Delita is a servant, because Ramza tries to treat him like a trusted friend. So it's kind of a weird dynamic. Like, technically Delita is a servant to Ramza, and possibly even an unpaid one. But we see that Ramza really tries to treat Delita just like a friend, and not really acknowledge the difference in their privilege here. But, you know, in the beginning of the game, they really do come across as best friends. They're always with each other, they fight together, they know a lot about each other. So, I know that this Ramza plus Delita is a pretty common ship in fanfiction. Like, a lot of people believe that there was more going on here, or even that the writers were trying to imply that there's more going on here, but, you know, maybe in, like, the late 90s, maybe they were too afraid to go there, who knows? I do not know. I don't think anything's ever been said for sure, like, oh yes, they're definitely romantic partners, or no, they're definitely not romantic partners. I think that's always been left just to the viewer's interpretation. I will say that, to me, like, when I've also heard people on the internet say, like, oh yeah, they're definitely a couple, because, like, when you see them in the Blades of Grass scene, like, they're so close, there's no way that they're not more, because, you know, people that close are obviously, like, hooking up with each other. And, like, to me, I don't know, I don't agree with that. I guess because, like, when I was that age, I always had my best friend. You know, like that friend who I could tell anything, and who was just, like, hands down, absolutely my best friend. And, you know, she and I never had romantic feelings for each other. It wasn't like that for us, and, you know, we wouldn't have wanted it to be like that. Like, it's almost better, I think, when you keep those lines separate, because, like, you know, romantic relationships can crash and burn, and it's always good to have your best friend to come cry to when that happens. So I guess it's just a little confusing to me that so many people think a best friendship like this must involve romantic feelings, because I've had friendships that are purely platonic and don't involve romantic feelings. I don't know, I guess everybody's different. Maybe other people blur that line a lot more easily than I do, and that's fine. I'm not judging at all. Just saying, like, when I've heard that point of view, I don't agree with it just because of my own experiences. I think you absolutely can be that close with your best friend and not have more going on. So that, I guess, kind of covers my feelings on them in Chapter 1, where they're, you know, always together. But obviously we all know after that they're mostly separated from each other for the rest of the game. Whenever they meet, it's usually in dangerous circumstances, and they only get to speak to each other for a few minutes before they have to part ways again. So, I guess for the rest of the game, I feel like it's unlikely that they're still romantic with each other if they ever were before. But, you know, not ruling it out as a possibility, I think that, you know, could be the case. Like, maybe they do have romantic feelings for each other and are really sad to be parted, even though they don't really express it out loud very well. I think in the church scene where Delita says something along the lines of, like, Ramza, should the hour come, I would kill you. You know, meaning, like, if there was a reason for me to kill you to further my ambitions, then I would do it unquestioningly. And Ramza, you know, doesn't really seem to have much to say in response to that. But I think at least on Delita's end, I guess you could read that two ways. He either doesn't have romantic feelings for Ramza, or else if he does, he's trying to deny them even to himself. He's trying to say, you know what, no, like, I would kill you, don't get a big head, like, I don't love you that much, I would kill you if I had to. So, there's that way of reading it, or there's the other way, which is just, you know, Delita does not have romantic feelings for Ramza, and he'd be able to put aside his feelings of friendship to kill him if he needed to. Which, I mean, I don't know. I always kind of hoped it's not the case. Like, I like to think Delita was all talk there, that he wouldn't really be able to go through with it if he needed to kill Ramza for one of his ambitions, but, I mean, Delita, by the end, you really don't know. He seems willing to just, like, sacrifice everything for power, so it's really hard to say. But between the two of these, I mean, I guess if it's a romantic connection, it ends up disturbed by the end of Chapter 1, and there's not much hope for salvaging it in the course of the game. But I guess my personal opinion, I like to think of them as just, like, really good best friends because, you know, that's, I don't know, I guess that's just, it makes sense to me. I also think, you know, if you're going to be in a romantic relationship, you probably shouldn't be with someone who is as abusive toward you as Delita is toward Ramza at multiple points in the game. Which, I mean, I get it. Delita is the underdog. Ramza is a very privileged, rich young man. You know, you can understand why Delita would be frustrated with him at times, but, you know, Delita gets physically abusive with Ramza in Chapter 1, I mean, verbally abusive after that in future chapters. Like, I guess it's just, you know, it's not something, like, if I knew people who were in a romantic relationship like that, I would probably be advising the Ramza person to leave immediately. So, yeah, I don't know, I don't really ship them together, although, I'm not judging anyone who does. Like, that's kind of the fun of all this, is we don't know, and you can ship whoever you want, and have all the headcanons you want, and just enjoy yourself, because it's a game, and I think the whole point is enjoying yourself. Otherwise, you know, go clean your kitchen or something. Like, when you're playing a game and thinking about it, you should be having fun. Alright, and the last and most obvious potential pairing we need to discuss for Delita is Princess Ovalia. So, we know that the two of them end up married at the end of the game, so obviously, at least from a political standpoint, they are together. Like, that's not just shipping or a headcanon, like, we know that at the end of the game they are together. They're married and Delita becomes King of Ivalice. So, that we're aware of. I guess we need to get back to our basic question, though, of is Delita actually into Ovalia? Because we really don't know that much. We know that Delita is super manipulative and willing to do just about anything to further his aims after Chapter 1. So there's the question of, was he really into Ovalia, or was he just looking for someone who could give him a quick rise to the top? So, gosh, I feel like I have to, before I get all debatey and looking at the facts in the game and that kind of thing, I feel like I just have to start by saying, like, teenage me shipped this couple so hard. Oh my god. I was like, Delita and Ovalia forever. Oh my god, they're so romantic. I love them. Like, you know, I guess just the whole, like, Delita all swashbuckling through and being like, I'm gonna tear this place up. You know, it was just like, I really liked that part of Delita. You know, I guess basically I'm looking at Chapter 2 and Chapter 3. I really liked those parts of Delita's character, where he's just not taking any shit anymore, and he's doing everything he can to reform the place, but he also, I don't know, he still seems to have some humanity left to him at that point. Like, he's not that, you know, toward the end when he's the king and you see him in, like, his, I don't know, his kingly cloak, and he's just, I don't know, he just seems like a huge douchebag at that point. It kind of seems like the power's gone to his head, and he's not considering anyone other than himself anymore. But, you know, looking at, like, Chapter 2 and Chapter 3 Delita, oh man, I shipped the two of them so hard. Like, I was like, yes, of course Ovalia has to fall in love with him, like, he's so amazing, and, you know, he's rescued her, like, a bajillion times from all these evil factions that want to see her dead. So, I feel like there's a lot of reasons to ship them, especially in Chapter 2 and Chapter 3. But, you know, Chapter 4 just kind of ruins it. Like, I also remember the first time I ever played this game, Chapter 4 was just such a buzzkill. You know, the ending scene where she stabs him and then he stabs her back, and it's just obvious that if there was love there, it's not there anymore because Ovalia felt that he needed to die. So, that whole scene, I'm just like, nope, just gonna like pretend I never played the end of the game and didn't know about that. That was basically how teenage me felt about it. Like, no, this was such a great ship before you had to take it there and show Delita just, you know, finish his arc into basically an evil villain. I mean, granted, an evil villain who, in some ways, has the common good at heart, but in other ways, it's like the people he wants to save, he's completely shut himself off from them, and he's sort of like, well, I know what's best for them. No need to consult them, or ever interact with them, or see them as human, but yeah, I know what's best for them, so, you know, just put me in charge and everything will be alright. And that Delita, I don't know, he just, like, he's fallen at that point. He's not the same Delita from, like, Chapter 2, who's just, you know, trying to save the day. At that point, I mean, I'm sure he's a little more jaded. Like, you've seen everyone he had to kill to get to that point. But, yeah, I guess when it comes to is Delita into Ovalia, I feel like I just rambled a lot without addressing that specifically. I guess the objective part of me has to say, I think overall Delita was probably not into Ovalia. Like, I think he probably saw admirable qualities in her, but, like, it's just kind of like, it's almost like he was forced to like her because she was the only person who could officially get him in the role of king, which he wanted. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Delita just never really opened himself up to the idea of liking her in the first place. Like, he might have just seen it as, you know what, you can use her to get to the top, so you'd better force yourself to like her. Whether you do or not doesn't really matter, because you need her. So, that's kind of my take on it. Like, I think, yeah, overall I think Delita was probably not that into her. Like, he's certainly not very respectful toward her at the end of the game. Like, when, you know, during that scene where he attacks Balmathala, or she wants to attack Delita but can't do it, and then Delita attacks her, that's, you know, he just kind of dismisses Ovalia right before all that goes on, and, like, not in the way of, like, you know, there wasn't a whole lot of reassurance. Like, I feel like the way there would be between a couple that actually cares about each other, like, I think there'd be more explanation of, like, what's going on, or even a little trust, like, okay, Ovalia, I can let you see this because you know all about me and I can trust you and you're part of my team. Like, Delita doesn't have that with her. He's just kind of like, this is what it is, but you need to get out of here, Ovalia, because you're not part of my team. So, I guess overall, I don't know that Delita was ever into her. I think it's possible that Ovalia was into him in the earlier parts of the game, when he did just seem like that swashbuckling hero, but by the end of the game, obviously she wants him dead, so those feelings eventually fade if she ever had them in the first place. So that leads us to, by the end of the game, my take on it is, I don't think Delita was really into anyone in the whole entire game. I think after all the tragedy of Chapter 1, he really devoted himself to power and getting himself to the top so that he could help others, which I mean, I guess he did, because they say that his reign was good when he was king. But yeah, I think that was his partnership. I think that what he was into was gaining power. I don't think he was actually into any of his castmates from the game. But it's still fun to speculate about, and obviously to ship people together and have fun with this. So I'd love to hear what you think about Delita, and if you do ship him with anyone, and who it is, if you do. So let me know down in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video and want to see more like this, go ahead and subscribe to this channel, and I'll try to keep them coming. Thanks. Bye.